The human pilot stepped out of his small cargo ship, his boots touching the steel floor of the alien station. The air was thick with smoke, the kind that came from cheap engines and burning fuel. Neon lights blinked from every side, throwing colors across the crowd. Creatures of all kinds filled the marketplace, shouting, bargaining, and pushing past each other. It was not a place for the weak. It was a place where danger walked in the open, and secrets hid in every corner. The pilot kept his head down. He had come here only to deliver a shipment, to pick up his credits, and to leave. He did not want trouble. Trouble was easy to find in this station, and it was not something he could afford. But fate, as always, had other plans for him. As he moved through the crowd, he felt eyes on him. He ignored it at first. Many people stared at humans in these parts, some out of curiosity, others out of hate. But this stare was different. It was not cold. It was not cruel. It was desperate. Then he saw her. She stood half hidden in the shadows of a broken wall, her body trembling as if the air itself frightened her. She was not like the other aliens he had seen. Her skin carried a faint glow like silver touched by moonlight. Her eyes were bright, too bright, like stars trapped inside them. She looked young, but her fear made her look even smaller, almost fragile. The pilot slowed down, his instincts warning him to move on. She was trouble. He could feel it. He told himself not to look at her again. But his feet refused to obey. The girl stepped forward. Her hands shook as she reached out, almost too afraid to touch him. Then, with a sudden rush of courage, she grabbed his arm. The pilot froze. He could feel her fingers pressing into his sleeve. They were cold like ice. He turned his head, ready to pull away, ready to tell her to leave him alone. But the words died before they left his mouth. Her lips trembled as she whispered, her voice breaking with fear. "Please, take my innocence." The pilot blinked, stunned. He thought he had misheard her. The noise of the market was loud, shouts and engines mixing together. But no, he had heard her clearly. Every word cut into his mind. Before he could ask what she meant, she tightened her grip. Her eyes, wide and wet with tears, stared into his. "Please, take it, before they sell me." The pilot's heart skipped a beat. He looked around, half expecting this to be some kind of trap. The station was full of thieves and liars. Maybe she was part of a trick to rob him. But the fear in her eyes was real. Too real to fake. He wanted to ask questions. Who were they? What did she mean by innocence? But the crowd pushed past him, and he felt the danger rising. A group of armored guards marched into the marketplace, scanning faces, their weapons ready. The girl flinched when she saw them, her nails digging into his arm. "They're coming," she whispered. "Please help me." The pilot's mind raced. This was not his problem. He had no reason to get involved. If the guards were searching for her, then she must have belonged to someone powerful. And in this part of the galaxy, stealing from the powerful was the fastest way to die. But still, he did not move. Something about her, her fear, her voice, the way her glowing eyes begged him, chained his feet to the ground. The guards came closer, their heavy boots shaking the steel floor. They stopped near the wall, looking around like hunters smelling blood. The girl pressed herself against the pilot, hiding her face against his arm. He knew he had to decide. He could push her away and leave, pretending he had seen nothing. Or he could protect her, and make enemies he could never outrun. For a moment, the world slowed. The noise of the market faded. All he could hear was her breathing fast and shallow, and his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. The leader of the guard shouted something in a language he did not understand. The crowd shifted, making space. The pilot realized they were moving toward his side of the market. In seconds, they would find her. The girl looked up at him again. Her eyes shone with tears, but also with hope. "Please," she whispered once more. "Don't let them take me." And in that moment, the pilot understood something. This was not about money. This was not about contracts or alien laws. This was about survival. Hers. And maybe, if he was not careful, his own. The guards were only a few steps away now. Their weapons glinted under the neon lights. The pilot clenched his jaw, knowing his choice would change everything. He could still walk away. But somehow he knew he wouldn't. The human pilot pulled the girl into a narrow passage away from the guards, his steps fast, his eyes scanning every shadow. The crowd swallowed their escape, but the echo of heavy boots followed close behind. He pushed her into a darker corner, pressing his back to the wall, waiting, listening. The guards passed, their voices sharp, their weapons gleaming under the lights, but they did not see them. For now they were safe. The girl trembled in silence. Her hands were still clutching his sleeve, refusing to let go, as if the moment she released him, the universe would swallow her whole. The pilot finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "What did you mean?" he asked. "What is this innocence you keep talking about?" The girl raised her eyes, glowing faintly in the dark. Her lips quivered, but she forced herself to answer. "My people, we are marked at birth," she whispered. "It is a seal, a contract. The rich merchants control it. As long as the seal is untouched, they can sell us like objects. To them, I am not a person, I am a prize." The pilot frowned. He did not like the sound of it. He had seen cruel things in the galaxy, but this was new, darker, twisted. She continued, her voice breaking with every word. "My seal is still pure. That is why they want me. If it is broken, the contract dies. No lord, no buyer, no master can claim me. That is why I begged you. If you take my innocence, they cannot sell me." The words hung in the air, heavy, strange. The pilot shook his head, confusion clear in his face. "You want me to—" He stopped himself. "You want me to break this contract just like that?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want it to be like this," she said softly. "But if I am sold, I will never be free. They will own me, use me, drain me until nothing is left. I would rather lose my innocence to you, a stranger, than to them." The pilot felt his chest tighten. This was no simple deal. This was no ordinary girl. He looked closer at her seal, etched faintly on her skin like a glowing mark, pulsing with a strange rhythm. It was alive, tied to her very being. "Why me?" he asked. Her answer was simple. "Because you looked at me and saw a person, not a prize." The pilot turned away, running his hand over his face. He wanted to walk. He wanted to leave her to her fate. But something inside him, something old and buried, would not let him. Before he could speak again, a sound rattled through the passage. Boots. Voices. The guards had doubled back. They were searching again. The girl's grip tightened on his sleeve, her breathing fast and shallow. He cursed under his breath. There was no time for choices. He grabbed her hand and pulled her forward. They ran through the winding alleys, dodging market stalls and jumping over broken crates. The neon lights flickered above them, flashing colors across their desperate flight. Finally, they reached the docking bay. His small cargo ship waited, engines cooling, metal skin scratched by years of travel. He opened the hatch and pushed her inside. "Stay low," he ordered. She obeyed without a word. The pilot climbed into the cockpit, powering up the ship. The engines roared to life, heat spilling across the deck. Alarms echoed behind them. Guards entering the bay, shouting commands. Shots fired, burning holes in the steel walls. The pilot gritted his teeth, hands flying across the controls. The ship lifted, shaking, pulling free from the clamps. The guards fired again, energy bolts slamming against the hull. The girl cried out, holding onto the seat as the ship tore free and blasted into the void. Stars filled the window, black space opening wide before them. For a moment silence, then her voice. "Thank you," she whispered. The pilot did not answer. His mind was full of questions. Who were these merchants? Why was she so valuable? And why did fate push her into his path? The girl sat quietly, her glowing eyes watching him. Finally she spoke again, her words soft but sharp. "They will not stop. They will hunt us across stars. You saved me, but now you are part of this. If you do not help me break the seal, they will never let either of us live." The pilot's hands tightened on the controls. He had been a smuggler, a soldier, a man who had survived by walking away. But this time walking away was no longer an option. He turned to her, his jaw set. "Tell me everything. No lies, no secrets. If I'm risking my life, I need the truth." She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Then you must know. My innocence is not only a contract. It is power. If the merchant lord takes me, he will drain that power and become unstoppable. That is why they want me. That is why I begged you." The pilot's blood ran cold. This was worse than he thought. Not only was she in danger, so was every world she touched. The ship flew on, stars streaking past, the silence between them heavy with unspoken fears. And in that silence, one thing became clear. This was no longer a job, no longer a chance meeting. This was the beginning of a war he had never asked for. The human pilot's ship cut through the black of space, its old engines groaning but holding strong. The neon lights of the alien station faded behind them, yet danger did not fade with it. The girl sat curled in the corner of the cockpit, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars rushing past. She looked calm on the outside, but her trembling hands betrayed the storm inside her. The pilot checked the scanners. His jaw tightened. Several dots lit up on the screen, ships leaving the station, following their trail. "They're already on us," he muttered. The girl's breath caught. "The merchants," she whispered, her voice filled with dread. "They'll send hunters, fast ships, killers who never fail." The pilot smirked bitterly. "Then they've never met me." But deep inside, even he was not sure. His ship was small, built for carrying cargo, not for outrunning war machines. He had fought before, yes, but this was different. This was not just survival. This was running with a target painted on his back. The girl closed her eyes. Her lips moved, whispering words he did not know in a language older than his species. A soft light shimmered around her for a moment, then faded. "What was that?" the pilot asked. "I was listening," she said softly. "Listening?" Her glowing eyes opened, staring into him. "I can hear them. Their minds, their hunger. They want me. They will tear apart anything that stands in their way." The pilot glanced at her, then at the scanner. The dots were closer now. Too close. He pushed the throttle, the ship shuddering as it sped forward. But the hunters were faster. Alarms screamed as the first shots flew past the hull, bright streaks of red flashing across the window. The girl gasped, clinging to the chair. "They've locked on," she cried. The pilot's hands flew across the controls, rolling the ship hard to the left. The shots missed, but only barely. He cursed under his breath. "This bucket isn't made for this," he growled. "If they hit us, we're space dust." The girl's eyes widened. "Then let me help." He glanced at her sharply. "Help? How?" Her voice shook, but her gaze was steady. "I can guide you. I can see where they will strike before they fire. Trust me." The pilot hesitated. Trust was not something he gave easily. But another blast rocked the ship, alarms blaring louder. He had no choice. "Fine," he said. "Tell me where." The girl closed her eyes again, her body tense, her glowing mark pulsing faintly. A moment later, her voice came, urgent and sharp. "Left. Now." The pilot obeyed, jerking the controls. A barrage of red fire streaked past, missing them completely. His eyes widened in shock. "Again!" she shouted. "Down roll now!" He followed, the ship twisting, diving, spinning through space like a leaf in the wind. The hunters fired again and again, but every shot missed, burning only the darkness around them. A grin broke across the pilot's face. "Not bad, girl. Not bad at all." But the danger was far from over. More ships appeared on the scanner. A fleet, small but deadly. They spread out, cutting off every escape path. The girl's glow flickered as she cried out, clutching her head. "There are so many." "Too many." The pilot's grin faded. His mind raced. He had one option left. Risky, reckless, but maybe their only chance. He slammed a switch on the console. The ship lurched as hidden thrusters ignited, forcing the vessel into a sharp dive toward the thick rings of a nearby gas giant. The girl's eyes widened. "You're flying into the rings?" "That's suicide." "Maybe," he said with a grim smile. "But it's better than waiting to die." The hunters followed, their ship sleek and sharp, cutting through the void with deadly precision. But inside the rings, chaos reigned. Millions of rocks, small and massive, spun endlessly around the planet. It was a graveyard of stone and ice. One wrong move, and their ship would be crushed. The pilot steered hard, weaving through the spinning debris, every second a gamble. The girl gasped, clutching the seat with white knuckles. "They can't all follow us here," he said, "not without crashing." But even as he spoke, two of the hunters dived in after them, dodging rocks, their weapons still locked on. "Guide me!" he shouted. The girl focused, her glowing eyes blazing brighter. "Up, roll right, dive now!" The pilot obeyed, weaving the ship through narrow gaps, letting boulders shield them from enemy fire. One of the hunters smashed into a rock, exploding into fire and metal. The other pressed on, relentless. The girl's voice shook. "He will not stop. He wants me more than his own life." "Then let's end it," the pilot growled. He steered toward a massive shard of ice, aiming straight at it. The hunter followed, closing in for the kill. At the last second, the pilot yanked the controls, the ship rolling hard to the side. The hunter did not react fast enough. It slammed into the ice, breaking apart in a storm of fire. The girl cried out in relief, tears shining in her eyes. "You did it!" The pilot exhaled slowly, his hands trembling from the tension. "We did it," he corrected. But even as he spoke, the scanner still blinked with more dots, more hunters circling the rings, waiting for them to emerge. They were not safe yet. The girl looked at him, her voice soft but steady. They will not stop. They will chase us until the stars burn out. You must decide now, will you keep running with me or leave me to them? The pilot stared at her, the weight of her words heavy in his chest. He had saved lives before, yes, but never like this. Never someone who carried the fate of her whole people. He met her glowing eyes, his voice low but firm. I've already decided, the engines roared, pushing them deeper into the storm of rocks, deeper into danger, and deeper into the unknown future waiting for them both. The ship drifted through the endless dark, hidden deep inside the rings of the gas giant. The engines hummed softly now, running low while pieces of stone and ice floated all around like silent guardians. For the first time since they left the alien station, there was no gunfire, no explosions, no hunters chasing them, only quiet. The human pilot leaned back in his seat, sweat still clinging to his forehead. His hands trembled slightly from the chase, but he forced them to be still. He had faced death before, but this felt different. It was not only his life at risk, it was hers too. He turned his head. The alien girl sat across from him, curled up against the cold wall of the cockpit. Her glowing eyes were dim now, tired, and her silver skin no longer shone as brightly. She looked small, fragile, almost broken. Yet there was something strong in her silence, something that refused to give up. For a long moment neither spoke. The only sound was the steady hum of the ship. Finally, the pilot broke the silence. You saved us back there, he said, his voice low but steady. Without you, we'd be dead. Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly in the dim light. No, she whispered. You saved me. I only helped a little. He gave a short laugh, though there was no humor in it. A little? You guided us through fire and death. You saw their moves before they made them. That's more than help. The girl lowered her gaze. Her hands trembled in her lap, fingers twisting nervously. For a moment she said nothing. Then slowly she spoke. You deserve to know the truth, the pilot frowned. What truth? She raised her hand. The glowing mark on her skin pulsed faintly, alive as though it had its own heartbeat. This, she said softly. This is my seal. My innocence, as I called it. But it is more than a contract. It is power. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Power? She nodded, her voice quiet, trembling with both fear and shame. My people are born with it. A gift, a curse. We can sense thoughts, emotions, the flow of danger before it comes. But it is tied to the seal. As long as the seal is unbroken, the gift stays pure. Once broken, it changes forever. It can be used, controlled, drained. Her glowing eyes flicked to his. That is why the merchants want me. To them, I am not a girl. I am a tool, a weapon they can sell to the highest bidder. If I fall into their hands, they will use me until nothing is left. The pilot sat in silence, letting her words sink in. He had seen greed in many forms. He had seen slaves, soldiers, broken lives. But this was something deeper, something crueler. The girl's voice cracked as she continued. I begged you because I had no choice. If someone pure, someone free takes the seal from me, the contract dies. I would be safe. But if they take me first, my life will end in chains. Her eyes filled with tears shimmering in the dim light. Do you see now? I was not asking for something shameful. I was asking for freedom, for life. The pilot let out a slow breath. He rubbed his face with one hand, struggling to find words. He was not a hero. He had never wanted to be one. He was just a man, running jobs, keeping his ship alive, keeping himself alive. Yet now here was this girl, placing the weight of her world in his hands. He looked at her again, at her trembling form, her shining eyes filled with fear and hope. You think I'm the kind of man who can save you, he said quietly. But you don't know me. You don't know what I've done. Her voice was soft but steady. I don't need to know your past. I only know what I see. And when I looked into your eyes, I saw someone who did not treat me like a prize. That is enough. The pilot felt his chest tighten. He wanted to argue, to push her away, to tell her she was wrong. But the words would not come. Because deep down he knew she was right. He could have walked away. He could have left her in the marketplace. But he hadn't. Something had stopped him. Something he could not explain. The silence returned, heavy but not empty. The girl leaned her head against the wall, her breathing slowing. Exhaustion pulled her down, her eyes closing as she drifted into sleep. The pilot sat in his chair staring at the stars outside. His thoughts raced. He had a choice. He could turn back, drop her somewhere, and wash his hands of this madness. Or he could keep going, keep protecting her and make enemies powerful enough to crush him. He glanced at her sleeping form, at the faint glow of her mark in the dark. He clenched his fists, his jaw set. He knew what choice he would make. But as he stared into the void, he also knew something else. Protecting her would not be easy. The merchants would not stop. They would come with fleets, with hunters, with endless fire and blood. And if her story was true, if her power was as real as she claimed, then this was bigger than him, bigger than her. This was a storm waiting to swallow them both. The pilot leaned back, closing his eyes for a brief moment of rest. The war had not begun yet, but he could feel it. And when it came, he would be ready. The pilot's ship glided through the dark, weaving between lonely stars. For a while there was silence, but both the human and the alien girl knew it would not last. The merchants would not rest, not until she was back in chains. Fuel was running low. Supplies were thin. They could not keep hiding forever. The pilot knew they needed a place to rest, a place to repair, maybe even someone they could trust. But trust was rare in the galaxy. Then a name returned to his mind. An old contact. A man who had once flown beside him during the wars. A smuggler who owed him more than one favor. His name was Varric. If anyone can hide us, the pilot muttered, it's him. The girl looked at him with tired eyes. You trust him? The pilot hesitated, then shrugged. As much as I trust anyone. Hours later, the ship touched down on a small outpost built on the edge of a dead moon. The place was quiet, its surface cracked and frozen, its sky filled with drifting dust. Lights flickered weakly across the landing pad as they descended. Varric was waiting. A tall man, scarred and smiling, his arms wide in welcome. My old friend, Varric boomed as the hatch opened. I thought you were dead. Or worse. The pilot smirked faintly. Not dead yet. Varric's eyes shifted to the girl, her glowing skin hidden under a hood. His smile tightened just a little, but the pilot caught it. And who is this? Varric asked, voice smooth. No one you need to know, the pilot said firmly. Just someone who needs a safe place. Varric nodded, pretending not to care. He led them inside the outpost, offering food, warmth, and a place to rest. For the first time in days, the girl felt the weight lift from her shoulders. She sat quietly by the fire, sipping water, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The pilot spoke in low tones with Varric, explaining nothing but asking for fuel, supplies, and silence. Varric agreed easily, too easily. His smile never wavered, but his eyes moved too much, lingering too long on the girl. That night, while the girl slept, the pilot walked the outpost alone. His instincts whispered warnings. Something was wrong. The place was too quiet, too clean. Varric had always been messy, reckless. But now everything was polished, ordered. Then he heard it, the faint buzz of a communicator, the sharp whisper of Varric's voice in the next room. Yes, I have them both, Varric was saying. The girl is here. Her mark glows just as they said. She's worth a fortune. The pilot's blood ran cold. Send your hunters, Varric continued. I'll keep them here. But the reward, it had better be doubled. The pilot's jaw clenched, his hand tightening around the blaster at his side. Betrayal. He had known trust was a risk, but still it cut deep. He turned silently and rushed back to the room where the girl slept. She stirred as he shook her shoulder. We're leaving, he whispered. Her eyes blinked open, confused. But no time, he snapped. Varric sold us out. The hunters are coming. Her fear lit her eyes, but she did not argue. She pulled her hood up and followed him into the dark corridors. But it was already too late. The outpost shook as explosions ripped through the landing pad. Lights flickered and alarms blared. The walls trembled with the sound of heavy boots, hunters pouring in. Varric appeared at the far end of the corridor, his smile gone, a weapon in his hand. I'm sorry. Old friend, he said, though his eyes showed no regret. She's too valuable. You understand, don't you? The pilot raised his blaster, fury burning in his chest. I understand you're already dead. Blaster fire lit the corridor, red bolts screaming past. The pilot grabbed the girl's hand, dragging her into the chaos. Hunters stormed through the doors, armored and armed, their voices sharp and cruel. The girl's powers flared, her eyes glowing as she screamed. Left! The pilot obeyed, ducking just as a shot tore into the wall where his head had been. They ran through the twisting halls, blaster fire chasing them at every turn. Explosions rocked the outpost as the hunters pressed closer. They reached the docking bay. The pilot's ship waited, scarred but ready. But hunters were already there, blocking the path, weapons raised. The girl's glow blazed brighter, her voice breaking with fear and strength. Now roll dive. The pilot leaped forward, firing with deadly aim. 2 hunters fell, but more closed in. He pulled the girl behind him, blasting through the chaos, his ship just steps away. Then Varric appeared again, shouting, firing, his face twisted with greed. The pilot's rage boiled over. He fired once, clean and final. Varric's body dropped, his betrayal ending in silence. They scrambled aboard the ship, the hatch sealing just as the hunters fired another wave of shots. The engines roared to life, shaking the ground. The girl clung to the seat, tears on her cheeks as the ship blasted into the sky, leaving fire and betrayal behind. The pilot's hands were steady on the controls, his eyes hard, his voice low. "No more friends," he muttered. "Only enemies now." The girl looked at him, her voice trembling. "They won't stop. You saw it tonight. They'll burn every world to take me back." The pilot nodded grimly. "Then we'll burn them first." The ship vanished into the stars, but the shadow of betrayal followed close behind. The human pilot's ship cut through the darkness, its engines burning hot, leaving the ruined outpost and Varric's betrayal behind. But the pilot knew the truth. Running would not save them anymore. The merchants would keep sending hunters. They would keep coming, stronger each time, until both he and the alien girl were ashes in the void. Inside the cockpit, silence hung heavy. The girl sat beside him, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars, her hands trembling in her lap. She had cried during their escape, but now her tears were gone, replaced by a quiet, sharp fear. Finally, the pilot spoke, his voice low, steady, like steel. "No more running," he said. The girl turned to him, her eyes wide. "What do you mean?" He leaned forward, pressing switches, activating hidden panels across the console. Compartments opened, revealing weapons, traps, and tools he had not touched in years. He had once been a soldier, once fought in wars across dying worlds. And though he had buried that past, it was still part of him. "If they want you," he said coldly, "then they'll have to fight me for you, and I'll make sure they regret it." The girl's breath caught. "But they are many. Their lord himself may come." The pilot's jaw tightened. "Then I'll kill him too." For the first time, a small spark of hope flickered in her glowing eyes. She nodded slowly. "Then I will help you." The pilot glanced at her. "Help me, how?" She lifted her trembling hand, the seal on her skin pulsing faintly. "My gift is not only to sense danger. I can link minds. If you allow me inside your thoughts, I can guide you, warn you faster than any scanner. Together we will fight as one." He stared at her, hesitation in his eyes. The idea of anyone in his head touching his mind made him uneasy. But then he thought of the hunters, of Varric's betrayal, of the merchant lord waiting somewhere in the stars. He had no choice. "Do it," he said. The girl closed her eyes, her glow brightening. Slowly, a wave of warmth washed over him, a presence brushing against his thoughts. For a moment he felt her fear, her sorrow, her loneliness, but also her strength, her will to survive. Their minds touched, not fully but enough. She gasped softly. You carry so much pain." "Focus," he said quickly. "Save the rest for later." Her lips curved in the smallest smile. "As you wish." Alarms blared across the console. The scanner lit up. A fleet was approaching, 15 hunters surrounding a massive flagship. The merchant lord had come. The girl's voice whispered in his mind, now clear and urgent. "They are here." The pilot's hands tightened on the controls. "Then let's begin." The void lit with fire as the hunters opened their attack. Red blasts screamed past, shaking the ship. The pilot rolled hard, his movements sharp and precise, guided by her voice inside his head. "Left," she shouted in his mind. He obeyed, dodging death by inches. "Down, fire now." He pressed the trigger, his cannons roaring, tearing a hunter into flames. The battle raged, every second survival, every movement desperate. But together they fought like one. Where he lacked speed, her gift filled the gap. Where she trembled, his steady hands kept the ship alive. One hunter fell, then another, but more pressed in. The flagship loomed closer, its shadow swallowing the stars. From its belly, a voice echoed across the comms, deep and cruel. "You cannot hide, little human. The girl belongs to me. Hand her over, and I may let you die quickly." The girl shivered, clutching her chest. "It's him," she whispered. "The Lord of the Merchants." The pilot's eyes burned with fury. He pressed the comms button, his voice cold as iron. She belongs to no one. The Lord's laughter filled the air, dark and mocking. Then you will watch her scream as I drain her power. The pilot's ship rocked as a blast from the flagship hit their shields. Sparks burst across the cockpit. Warning lights flashed red. We can't fight them all, the girl cried. Yes, we can, the pilot growled. But not by running straight. We use the field. Ahead, a graveyard of shattered ships floated silently. Wrecks from an old battle. Rusted hulls and broken weapons drifted in the void, jagged and sharp. The pilot steered toward it without hesitation. The girl's eyes widened. It's a death field. No one survives inside. A grim smile touched his lips. Good, then they won't expect us there. The hunters followed, firing wildly as the ship plunged into the graveyard. Wrecks spun all around them. Massive hulks and sharp debris. The pilot wove between them with impossible speed, guided by her voice using the wreckage as cover. Hunters crashed into broken hulls, exploding in fire. Others were caught in traps left behind by the ancient war. One by one, their numbers fell. But still the flagship followed, its guns blasting holes through dead steel. Unstoppable. Relentless. The girl's glow blazed brighter, her voice sharp in his mind. We cannot destroy the flagship. It is too strong. Then we break its heart, the pilot said. His eyes locked on the flagship's command tower. Take me there. The girl gasped, realizing his plan. That's suicide, he smirked. Not if we do it together. Their minds burned as one, her gift guiding his every move, his courage pushing her to fight harder. The ship roared through the graveyard, closing in on the flagship, preparing for the final strike. And as the enemy's shadow swallowed them whole, the pilot whispered the words that sealed his choice. No more running. Tonight we fight. The human pilot's ship roared through the wreckage field, weaving between broken hulls and drifting metal, every move guided by the alien girl's voice inside his mind. Together they had destroyed hunters, dodged death, and drawn closer to the massive flagship that blotted out the stars. But the flagship was not just a ship. It was a fortress bristling with weapons, its shields glowing like fire. At its heart waited the merchant lord, the one who had hunted the girl since her birth, the one who would stop at nothing to own her. The pilot's hands tightened on the controls. His ship was small, his weapons weak. Against the flagship he stood no chance, yet still he pushed forward. No more running, he muttered under his breath. The girl sat beside him, her glowing eyes locked on the enemy. Her hands trembled, her seal blazing with light. She could feel the Lord's mind pressing against hers, hungry, cruel, powerful. He's calling me, she whispered, her voice shaking. He wants me to give in. The pilot glanced at her, his eyes hard. Then fight. Fight him with everything you have. You're not his. You never were. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. Not as long as you're here. The comms crackled to life, the Lord's voice filling the cockpit. Deep, mocking, dripping with confidence. Little human, the Lord said, his voice like thunder. You think you can fight me? Your ship is a toy. Your weapons are nothing. Hand over the girl and I may let you crawl away alive. The pilot pressed the comms, his voice cold and sharp. You want her? Then come and take her. The Lord laughed and the flagship's cannons roared. Blinding blasts shook the field, tearing wrecks into fire. The pilot rolled hard, diving through the chaos, the girl's voice guiding his every move. Left. Now, she shouted in his mind. He obeyed, dodging death by inches. But the flagship pressed closer, filling the stars with its shadow. Its guns lit the void, fire raining down. We can't win like this, the girl cried. Its shields are too strong. The pilot's jaw clenched. Then we don't break its shields. We break him. He steered the ship straight toward the flagship's command tower, engines screaming, weapons firing in desperate bursts. The Lord's voice thundered again. Foolish. Do you think you can pierce me? I will tear her from your hands and drain her until she is nothing. The girl gasped, clutching her chest as the Lord's psychic pull dragged at her. Her mark burned like fire, glowing brighter and brighter. I can't hold him back, she cried. The pilot reached over, gripping her trembling hand. His voice was firm, steady, unshakable. You're not alone. He can't take you, not while I'm here. Her eyes widened, tears streaming down her cheeks. Their minds flared brighter, her gift flowing into him fully now. For a heartbeat, he felt everything. Her fear, her pain, her hope. And she felt his rage, his courage, his refusal to ever let her fall. Together, their power surged. The girl screamed, her glow bursting across the cockpit like a star. The Lord roared in fury, his presence pressing harder, trying to rip her apart. But she pushed back, guided by the pilot's strength. "No," she cried. "You will never own me." The pilot pulled the ship into a final dive, weaving through fire, closing the distance to the flagship's command tower. Weapons blazed, alarms screamed, but they did not stop. "Now," the girl shouted in his mind. "Strike now." The pilot slammed every weapon, every missile, every ounce of energy into one final shot. The ship shook, systems burning out, but the blast tore forward, piercing the flagship's command tower. A blinding explosion lit the void. The flagship's shields shattered. Fire consumed the giant ship, tearing it apart piece by piece. The Lord's voice echoed one last time, not mocking now, but furious, broken, screaming as his power collapsed. Then silence. The girl slumped in her seat, her body weak but her eyes still glowing faintly. Tears slid down her face, but this time they were tears of relief. "It's over," she whispered. "He's gone." The pilot's ship drifted through the burning wreckage, smoke and fire filling the stars. He exhaled slowly, his hands finally relaxing on the controls. For the first time there was no chase, no hunters, no threat. The girl turned to him, her voice soft, trembling with emotion. "You didn't take my innocence. You saved it." The pilot looked at her, his eyes steady. "You saved yourself." "I only stood beside you." She smiled weakly, leaning her head against the seat. "Then let us keep standing, together." The pilot glanced at the stars, endless and open before them. He knew the fight was not truly over. The merchants were broken, yes, but not destroyed. Others would come. Others would try. But now he was not alone. He met her gaze once more, his voice low but firm. "Then together it is." The ship turned, engines sparking back to life, cutting a path through the ruins of the flagship. The stars stretched wide, waiting for them. Freedom was not easy. It never was. But tonight they had won it, and tomorrow they would fight again.